Welcome to Design Your CEO Life. I am your host, Shay Cannon. I have designed my CEO life to live and work my business from anywhere in the world. I started this journey in Belize. I lived in Mexico for 3 years. After that, I was in Buenos Aires, Argentina, before coming back to my favorite little beach town of Playa del Carmen, Mexico. I'm truly living my best life, just 3 blocks from the Caribbean Sea. Thank you for joining me as I share conversation, stories, strategies, anything I can do to help you design your CEO life. This episode is the first episode. I'm so excited about it. It is called Reverse Sugar Baby, Living and Dating Abroad. Let's get into it. I want to make sure I see you, okay? Because this is a conversation, and it may seem a bit one-sided, but we are getting to know each other. In fact, I would love to hear from you. On social media, I am at Shay Cannon COO everywhere. Tag me, tell me about yourself, tell me how you liked the episode, tell me if anything in here was helpful for you. Tag me at Shay Cannon COO everywhere. Let me tell you a little about myself. I'm from Alabama. I was born there, I was raised there, but I last lived in Georgia before I moved out of the country. Now, in Alabama and Georgia, I was a paralegal. I've only worked for 2 law firms in my life and in my 10-year career as a paralegal, and both of those firms were large Fortune 100 law firms. And let me tell you how, in working in corporate America, I have discovered I am allergic. I'm allergic to corporate America, okay? Because I feel like I was sold a dream that was not my dream, right? So corporate America is all about having a job that is working to bring someone else's dream to fruition, right? As an employee, you work not for your dream, but for their dream. And so I don't like that. I'm more of a person that I figured out in my career that I need ownership. I need ownership over my life, right? I want to own my time. I want to own my purpose. I want to earn my work assignments. I want to own who I work with. All of that. And for me, entrepreneurship was my key to ownership. And just so that you know, I've been an entrepreneur in one way or another since I was in middle school. My grandmother was an entrepreneur, so she is the one that definitely inspired me and made me want to be an entrepreneur before I even knew what the word meant. So my grandmother was a teacher, and she got all the education. She went all the way up to the master's level. Her goal was to be a principal. But let me tell you how back then they wasn't letting, this brown, black person be a principal back then. They didn't care about your experience. They didn't care about the education. They cared about, I'm from the South, Alabama. So they cared about everything but what a person of color wanted to do to be successful. So another thing that my grandmother did was she had an entrepreneurial spirit. Now, she wasn't quite good at business, but she wanted to own a thrift store. She wanted to own a child care center. She wanted to own all of these things. And so she did manage to get a building that she was going to open the thrift store in, but it just kind of fizzled out. Then she wanted to do real estate. So she bought all of these houses and residences and stuff. And when you tend to put your family in all the houses you buy, you don't quite make a profit, right? So again, she didn't have that business acumen, but she had that entrepreneurial spirit. And that's where I got it from. But she started me off with my first business. So in middle school, I sold candy. My grandmother bought me, she explained to me how it works, and she bought me the candy, right? I went to school. My job was to sell the candy, and then she would take me back to get more candy to sell, right? Well, I ate the candy and I shared the candy with my friends. So some of my first lessons about entrepreneurship and business came from me selling candy in middle school. The first lesson I learned, don't get high on your own supply. Okay? Because when she went to take me back to the store, I had no candy and no money. Okay? So she bought candy for me again. And then, so now I understood to be in business, I actually had to sell the candy. I couldn't eat and I couldn't give it away. So I sold the candy. But the next mistake that I made was I spent the money. I spent all of the money. So I sold the candy. I got the money for the candy, and I got money above and beyond what I paid for the candy, but I spent all the money. So what I learned then when we had to go back to the store, and my grandmother had to again buy more candy for me, was that you have to invest back into your business before you spend money, right? There's a difference between revenue and profit. So now I knew how much it took for me to buy the candy that I needed, and for me to, know what was left over was for mine to spend, right? So revenue and profit. Now, the next thing I learned about business was knowing my clients, right? So I learned what type of candy they liked over other types of candy. Because what would happen is I would have candy left over that nobody bought, and then I would have candy that sold that I didn't have enough of, right? So I learned that, a lot of kids didn't like candy with nuts in it. And I learned that the blow pop grape was the big flavor in the blow pops lollipops. And then I learned that chocolate would sell easily, but I couldn't keep them where it would get hot and melt, right? So learned a lot of stuff. Um, so entrepreneurship, I think, was a legacy given to me, and I love it. And so again, entrepreneurship equals ownership of something, including your freedom. Being in corporate America 10 years, I still wanted to go back and get back to that freedom of entrepreneurship. I wanted to be able to own my time. I wanted to be able to go to my child's school without asking somebody and without rushing there and rushing back. I wanted to be able to, go on the field trips, go and have the lunches, or maybe have breakfast at the school with my children. I wanted to be able to, if I wanted to go do yoga in the middle of the day, go do that, right? If I wanted to come in late or leave early, if I don't want to work Mondays, I would rather work extra hard Tuesday through Friday. Or I don't want to work Fridays, I would rather work extra hard Monday through Thursday, right? Um, those are the types of things I wanted to own that corporate America was not at all trying to allow me to own. Entrepreneurship is hard work. But you have to believe in it and yourself, and you have to persevere, right? Entrepreneurship is all about trial and error. It's all about putting something out there, getting feedback and data, and then putting it back out there better. But it is also, with all the freedom, it's also very faith activating, okay? Because the illusion of stability you get from a job is that you know how much you're going to get paid and you know when you're going to get paid. Now, it's an illusion because gone are the days where you have a job and it's the same job all your life and you get to retire and then you get this pension. They just fire you. So it's not really that stable anymore. But there's an illusion of stability there. In entrepreneurship, the thing that is unstable is you don't know how much money you're going to make or when you're going to make money, because it's sometimes hard to predict sales. Okay. So that is one of the things that you have your ups and your downs with, that makes you dip into your faith to get through. But I definitely understood that entrepreneurship was my way to freedom. And once you get that sales cycle down, and once you understand your clients and all of that kind of stuff, there's no ceiling to the amount of money that you can make. So that instability becomes no longer a problem. So, being in corporate America, I wanted to get back to entrepreneurship. So, I joined a coaching program, and I thought that I was going to set a goal that 3 years from me starting that program, I would become a full-time entrepreneur. Well, I tend to be an overachiever. So I actually achieved my freedom within a year. And it was not because everything was set up so and I had a safety net. It's because I jumped and bet on myself. Let me tell you, I do not encourage people to jump into entrepreneurship without a safety net of an emergency fund or, a year's worth of, what you need to survive in case the business does not automatically pick up, or time pick up in a timely manner, because it's unpredictable. I was just willing to bet on myself. So what I did was I found a contract that replaced 2/3 of my income. And what I knew in betting on myself was I could hustle up on the other third and live my lifestyle, live the same lifestyle, but have more freedom. And I actually achieved that, right? And it was amazing for me. But again, I don't encourage people to just jump and don't have a plan and don't have a safety net. So don't do that. Don't do what I did. Then I had a new goal that, the contract that I had required me to be in Georgia, and to attend different events and that type of thing. And so now my new goal was to be location independent for my business within the next 3 years. I achieved that in a year. And so when I got to the point where I realized I was location independent, it actually was when I had the opportunity to move out of my house. I was renting, I did not own, but it was a huge house and it was just me and my youngest son left in the house. And I said, I could save money if I moved to a smaller house. Like, I'm making enough money to live the same lifestyle, but now I'm kind of wasting money. I could have more money to live the life that I want if I lowered my expenses. But in Georgia and in the areas that I would be willing to live in, I wouldn't be saving that much going from a 5-bedroom house even down to a 2-bedroom house. Like, in the areas I wanted to stay in, I was only saving $100, $200, $300. And I was like, that's not worth it. But then I realized that I didn't have to stay in Georgia, right? Like, I had actually achieved my location independent business. I could be anywhere. And so I thought about going back to Alabama, but who wants to do that? And I realized, no, you can be anywhere. So now I started looking at the world. And so that's what I did. And so I started researching and I started looking at different places. The first place that I picked was Belize. And I picked Belize because their national language was English. And I didn't want to have to worry about overcoming the obstacle of language, along with all the other things that I would have to do while I was there living abroad for my first time. When I moved to Belize, I had my youngest son with me. He was a senior in high school. And we stayed in Belize 3 or 4 months before we came back home, for the holidays in the month of December. So there was something I learned in living in Belize, and that was, when you move and you want to take advantage of your full strength of the US dollar, because all of my clients were still in the United States. So my currency was stronger than most of the countries I would visit in my term, in living in different countries. But in Belize, it was only two of their dollars, two of their dollars to one of the US dollar. But you have to look at more than currency also, because you would think, well, you're getting stuff a half off, right? Well, there's a second thing you have to think about, and that is cost of living. So you need the US dollar to be stronger and you need the cost of living to be lower to really get in that thing and live the way you want to live. So my next country that I went to was Mexico. And then I started to definitely feel the effects of a stronger currency and a lower cost of living. And so, I'm able to do things like live 3 blocks from the Caribbean Sea and have rooftop pools and, have food delivered, have a housekeeper, get a massage every week, all of those things, right? Because now your money goes further. So, yes. Now, living in these different countries, Belize, Mexico, Argentina, and back to Mexico, I live a full life. That means that I date. But I tend to date local. Now, I didn't date in Belize. I started dating for the first time in Mexico. So there were a few things I had to get used to. And so let's talk about them. So I met people on, or I met men on Tinder. Tinder is an international app. And what I found was the first thing I had to do was get used to the Mexican aesthetic, right? How Mexican men look. That's different than how black men I've dated or white men I've dated look. Even I've dated a Hispanic before in the United States, but it was even different than that because I'm in a region just like the United States where people tend to have different looks, or just nationalities, ethnicities have different looks, right? Well, in Mexico, what I have learned is I am in a region called the Riviera Maya, and it is particularly Mayan people. And Mayan people tend to be shorter. Some of them tend to be wider, or they tend to be short and very skinny or thin, right? I'm not used to that. I'm tall. I'm almost 6 feet tall, and I like tall men. So I had to get used to the shortness. I had to get used to the ethnicity of the frame of face, and but I mean, it don't take you long to figure out what you like, and so you can find sexy in different things. But that's just one part of it. I also had to get used to the fact that because I'm in an economic circumstance where I make money, more money than the men here. They don't have leverage over me. Let me explain what I mean by that. So, the women here in this region or in this country, Mexican women still are fighting for rights. They still have it hard. There's still a lot of domestic violence here. There's a lot of lack of opportunity for them to make money, um, or make good money, right? So it's still a thing. So the men have a lot of leverage over the women in this country, even though they don't make as much, on average, economically. Women make even less and they have even less opportunity. So, me trying to date them, what I came into contact with was a lot of men who didn't want to be bothered with me because I said no a lot. They want to do little simple stuff that I don't want to do. So, no, I don't want you to come to my house and watch Netflix every time we're supposed to do something. No, I don't want to go and meet you for coffee every time. Like, I'm used to doing stuff. I'm used to having new experiences and all of this. And they weren't bringing that to the table. So I didn't want to be bothered. And so they decided didn't want to be bothering me either. So they blocked me on WhatsApp. They would block me all the time. Like, it kept happening. And I was like, oh, this is a thing. And another thing with, in the U.S., y'all are still arguing over $200 dates, and do you do you go half and half, and whatever. Well, here I make the money, and for the things I like to do, what I recognized was as I'm connecting with people and spending more time, if I want to do the things that I want to do, most likely I have to be the one to pay for it. So I'm not used to that, and that's where the reverse sugar baby comes in, right? Because I'm the one with the money. I'm the one that would pay for most things. I'm the one that has a better lifestyle, right? So I had to kind of decide, like, what does this look like for me? So what I decided was I don't mind paying for dates if it's what I want to do and I want to invite that person. I don't mind paying for it if I want to experience it with that person. What I'm not going to do is pay for something they want to do and I don't want to do it. What I'm not going to do is pay into your lifestyle or try to catch your lifestyle up with mine. That's what I have decided I am not going to do. So that was kind of my litmus test, my barometer of how far I would go with that. So I got into my first relationship, and I had my first committed relationship here in Mexico, but um, he was very much alpha male. That's kind of my type. But what he did not like was that I made more money. And so that for us to do things, I would have to pay for it. He didn't like that. But he also didn't like that we would not be able to do things if I didn't pay for it. So that relationship ended because we just were misaligned, right? Like he wanted to do better by me, but he didn't have the resources to do that. And so it made him feel some kind of way. And so we became misaligned. And so we just, we just stopped. But then I met a guy who was really cool. Right now, the first boyfriend spoke English. This next guy, he speaks English. They are bilingual. I am not. So yes, I live in Mexico. My Spanish is horrible. But this guy, he was really, really cool. Again, another alpha male. But he was really cool, and we had great conversation. And so I asked him, I asked him about the blocking thing and the leverage, and he confirmed that for me, because he was like, most Mexican men, as a stereotype, are very macho. It even, fed into why me and the first guy didn't work out. But anyway, this guy basically told me, it's a different culture, it's a Hispanic culture, and they tend to be like that as a stereotype or as a commonality. And so I asked him, hey, in the United States, one of the things I was taught to look for in a mate, in a man, was that he be a great provider. And that usually means financially. Here in Mexico, I am the one with the money. So what else can you provide of value if it's not financial, right? And he was like, oh, easy, no problem, right? So he was like, I can provide companionship. I can provide emotional support. I can provide new experiences and adventure. I can provide quality time, these things. And that's when I realized, I was like, oh, so you can provide all the things that I usually miss out on when I'm focused on financial providing only. So that was awesome. We had a great time. That taught me something new about dating, that I now enjoy, because one of the things I look for now is, are we having new experiences? It doesn't have to be a particular amount of money for that experience, but are we having new experiences? Are we having experiences, period? Are we having fun? Are we enjoying each other? I want to talk about support, because me going out of the country and always going to countries where there's nobody there that I know already, I want to talk about how support looks different. Companionship, right? Sometimes companionship is not just spending time with you, but also giving you time to yourself, because that's support too, right? Not bothering you is a form of support. Let's talk about family. That's where I go for unconditional love, my family, right? I'm not necessarily out in these dating streets looking for unconditional love, quickly, timely. I have it in my life from family. That's a form of support. I have business besties that I can talk business with. I have friends that I have fun with. I have friends that are my emotional friends that I can release to. These are people I trust, and that I can be vulnerable with. That's a form of support. I have tough friends, friends that are a mirror to remind me of who I am in times that I forget who I am. That's a form of support. I have what I like to call an umbrella of protection. Okay. I have men in my life that protect me. I have brothers, I have male cousins, I have uncles, and I have a male bestie who don't play about your girl, right? So I have that type of support. I have my grandmother who is my prayer warrior. We all need somebody that is spiritually inclined in that kind of protection. And so support looks different, but support is there. When you go to places where you don't know anybody, what I want you to know is there are other types of support. What I also want you to know is, if you are a good person and you have good energy, you will attract other good people. No matter where you go, there are good people. So being here in Mexico, I have only experienced good people because I am a good person, and because I expect to experience good people, and because I have positive, good energy, right? So if you are positive, if you are a good person, you will find other good person to start building a new community. But also be open to finding good stuff. I don't experience a lot of racism and negativity because I'm not looking for it. Wherever you go, there you are. So if you're the type of person that is negative, you're going to draw negative to you. If you're the type of person that's scary, in fear, you're going to draw things to you to be scared of and be in fear of. And so just understand that wherever you are, there you are. So when you go to live a different life, don't take the old you with you. Start to create the new you. Um, Create the person that you're co-creating an existence for. Okay. Another thing I would like to say is wherever you go, your people are there. Whether it be your ethnicity, your religious group, or whatever, Black people. Wherever I go, I see Black people. Americans, wherever I go, I see Americans. Your people are wherever you go. So even if you know nobody there, you will find your people and gravitate and build a new community. So don't be afraid to design your CEO life, because everything that you need, you have. I'm also a CEO, right? I provide award winning fractional chief operating officer services to an exclusive clientele of 6 and 7 figure CEOs. I've been featured by Time Magazine, Delta Airlines, Thrive Global, and more. On my coaching side, I help solo and entrepreneurs to stop spinning their wheels and struggling to get to their first 6 figures in business. If that's you, I have a special invitation for you. I would like for you to join my free group. It's free. Everybody loves free, right? So we build community, we create collaborations, we have conversations to provide you with transformational business growth. So go to shaycannon.info/group and join us. That's all for this episode. It's been a pleasure, I do mean a pleasure, having you to tune in. So, CEO, go design a life worth living. Bye for now.